In Europe and the US, Gran Turismo 4 turns 20 years old this year. Considered to be the pinnacle of the series, it's still revered to this day as the greatest racing game of all time. To some, this was maybe just a bundle-in game that they got with their console, like how when you get a Nintendo console it's kind of a given that you get a Mario Kart. But for many of us, myself included, this game was something that would change our lives forever. Gran Turismo as a whole came to be a cultural icon spanning over 27 years, multiple generations, and even a Hollywood movie. The passion that's been showcased throughout the series is enough to even make a hardened person well up. This is a brief look at the legend that is Gran Turismo. Gran Turismo's story begins with a small company who was, at the time, called Polly's Entertainment, founded in 1994 in Japan as part of Sony's Japan studio. Seeing the success of kart racers at the time, you know who, Sony wanted to have one of their own for the launch of their screw you to the Nintendo, the PlayStation. For context, Nintendo had actually commissioned Sony to make them a disc-based console when everybody else was still using cartridge. Many prototypes were made and they got quite far on, and then last minute Nintendo decided to go with one of Sony's competitors, Philips. Naturally, pretty pissed off, Sony went on to make a console of their own, inventing the PlayStation, and the rest is history. Developed over the space of a year and a half, and then rushed out to market by Sony to make release day, Motor2 Grand Prix was a kart racer like no other. Despite the cartoony graphics, Polly's put the effort in, even simulating the suspension properly for going around corners to make it feel more like a real kart. I mean, would you expect any less? Released to relative critical success 2 weeks after the console was released, the green light was given for a sequel. When that in turn would also go on to be a success, Polly's Entertainment were finally allowed to make the game they always wanted, an in-depth car simulator for the masses. What Sony didn't know is that Polly's had already started work on Gran Turismo a few years earlier as a passion project. Just 1 year later, we got the game that would change the face of racing games forever, Gran Turismo. Launched in 1997, the same year I was launched into the world, Gran Turismo was an instant success, selling millions and going on to be the best selling game on the original PlayStation. Now just think about that for a second. When's the last time a racing game, especially one like this, was the best seller on a system? The premise was simple but effective. You get a small amount of starter cash, you get your licenses, buy your first car, and then you do some races, with the hopes of winning the final championship to roll the credits. Win cars, sell cars, but especially new to the world of mainstream gaming was modifying cars, minutely tuning cars, taking standard everyday hatchbacks and making them faster than supercars. Starting from the bottom, now you get the idea. Your own personal garage of cars you've put hours into perfecting, and they wonder why car enthusiasts are never happy with having just one car. It seems so cliche now, but remember, this had never been done before. This was where it all began. Never before had the racing game genre released so coherent a package. That's before we even get into the soundtrack, which has been the background of our videos on this channel for a long time now. And replays, something we take for granted now, likely even just skip all the time, but being able to watch back that grueling race you just did was something that blew people's minds back in 1997. Gran Turismo would go on to be such a success that Sony would actually make Polly's Entertainment into their own company, and they became Polyphony Digital as we know and love today. When the second game came along, the game was so big, so expansive, that it had to be put across 2 discs. Yes, it had its share of flaws, don't get me wrong, but it had nothing but charm, and most importantly, it had the cardigans.
Take you there.
Yep, Gran Turismo will go on to be a massive hit for Sony, and the best was yet to come. The PlayStation 2 era would be yet another story of success for Polyphony. I mean, they could genuinely do no wrong at this point. While people were a bit annoyed at Gran Turismo 3 losing some of the massive amount of cars, nearly 650 in Gran Turismo 2 versus only 180 odd in Gran Turismo 3. But this was the era of higher fidelity. Things took a lot longer to model and make compared to the days of yore. Released not long after the PS2 itself, Sony knew this would be a system seller, and they were right. Gran Turismo 3 sold more than any other in the series, 15 million copies. The series as a whole has sold over 90 million copies, not bad when you consider it's a PlayStation exclusive. The 2000s would go on to be another golden era for racing games, with new titles coming out left, right and centre, but none of them would match the charm, passion and polish of Gran Turismo. Many would cash in on the street racing craze that was rife in the 2000s, thanks Fast and Furious, but there were only two real competitors to the Gran Turismo crown: Forza Motorsport and Enthusia Professional Racing. Forza you know and love. Enthusia, well, that's a video for another time. It's unfortunate for the other two then that in 2005 or late 2004 in Japan, Polyphony Digital will go on to reveal what is known to be one of the greatest racing games of them all, Gran Turismo 4. Now before we get into any of that though, there's one man we need to talk about here, Kazunori Yamauchi. When production of the first Gran Turismo started back in '92, Polly's Entertainment was a team of only up to around 15 people. 15. 1-5. In comparison, your average AAA title, which a Gran Turismo certainly is, usually ranges up to about 500 people. Kaz joined Sony because he wanted to make his dream of a realistic driving simulator come true. But he was shot down when Sony thought the project was too ambitious to realise just yet. That wouldn't stop them though, they just knew it was something they would do alongside their actual work, which would be the car racer we talked about earlier. These 15 people were working towards a joint dream, realising the vision of Kaz. To have his unwavering automotive passion and soul on display, that's a Gran Turismo reference for you guys, for the world to see. And it was no easy task. I mean, Kaz himself said that for 5 long years, he would go to work, sleep at work. He'd only know what time of year it was by the fact that sometimes he got a little bit cold. He was home probably only about 4 days of the year. That man and his small team worked tirelessly to give us the best product that they could, surviving off little more than lots of coffee and lots of takeaways. In fact, they drank so much coffee that when they finally gave us a livery editor in Gran Turismo Sport, they put the brand of the coffee they would buy as a decal. Nice touch. But most of all, Kaz was a devout car enthusiast, going on to become a professional racing driver on his own merit, owning cars like Skyline GTRs and Porsche 911 GT3s, which would wind up in Gran Turismo 3 as a secret car, and using his attention to detail, a passion for all things automotive to give us, the players, the chance to live out our own automotive dreams. Kaz has worked hard to give us the best games possible. Yes, this hasn't always happened, and yes, some people feel that Polyphony worries more about what they think is important than what the gamer will, but nobody can deny the genuine love and care that is crafted into Gran Turismo. In 2005, 20 years ago this year, we over here in Ireland got what many consider to be Polyphony's magnum opus, Gran Turismo 4. After many delays and much hype, this was the game that would cement the series as the go-to for a home console sim experience. With a staggering 721 cars from 80 manufacturers, this was more of an automotive museum than a racing game. Coupled with graphics that were above and beyond anything on the console at the time, A soundtrack that would live on as the best to this day, though having Queens of Stone Age, Eagles of Death Metal, and Kasabian, Kaiser Chiefs and Van Halen in one game may have me slightly biased. And more tracks than you can shake a stick at, the delays that may have disappointed fans before were all worth it come release day. The fan favourite used cars also made a return with a proper classified set of categories, all varying mileage, colours and more, which is what I spent more time on than anything else when I was a kid. Countless, endless races, 24-hour endurances and many firsts for the series, all were delivered with Polyphony's trademark elegance and sophistication. The UI is still leagues above many games that we have today. While we've already mentioned soundtracks before, a special mention has to go to the Gran Turismo 4 soundtrack. We use it in our videos all the time and it still gives me tingles whenever I hear it. Gran Turismo 4 became the racing game to which all others are compared, and in a lot of cases even still to this day. So highly revered by its fans and critics, it went on to become the third best-selling game of the PS2, meaning it's the third best-selling game on the best-selling games console of all time. But here we want to talk about the importance of Gran Turismo to car enthusiasts like us. The best way to think of Gran Turismo is like Hot Wheels for a new generation. Cast your mind back to 1997. The internet was very much in its infancy, and the most amount of exposure you would get to a car was either watching Vicky and Jeremy on Top Gear or reading magazines about the car scene in your country. Poster cars were the cliché. Lamborghini Diablos, Ferrari F50s. People had no idea that over in Japan there were Nissans and Toyotas that could wipe the floor with them with the right mods. At the time, video games didn't even really have many licensed cars. Doesn't mean there weren't any, don't get me wrong, the likes of Need for Speed and V-Rally and Colin McRae etc. all having licensed cars, but they were usually a set niche or themed like motorsports or supercars with maybe 20 cars at the absolute most. But here was a game that had 140 cars, all painstakingly modelled for the time, with full descriptions and datasheets. To a nerd of a kid, this was absolute heaven. Yes, it might have been 30 varieties of the same car, but we'll not get into that. Gran Turismo marked a seismic shift in the car world. No longer were people dreaming about supercars and the unobtainable. They were dreaming about the Micra Super Turbo and the Corolla down the street that they modified in game to be faster than a race car. In our pockets, now remember memory cards were a thing at the time, we had this little garage of 100 cars exactly how we wanted them. The colours we wanted, modified to how we wanted them, fantasizing about what we just couldn't have in the real world, and we could take them with us to our friends' houses and race together. Or giving us lifelong childhood dreams to make come true in the real world. Take myself and Ryan for example, we wouldn't be sitting here with Impreza wagons as childhood dream cars if it wasn't for Gran Turismo, and same for my MX-5 as well. You can very likely thank Gran Turismo for the insane prices that 90s JDM cars are reaching now. As people our age grow older and can afford them, they're now reaching all-time highs. But it's more than just being about cars themselves, it's a safe haven for car enthusiasts in a world that's becoming more and more anti-car. Imagine having a hobby that the world is actively trying to clamp down on and stop you enjoying. You don't see that happening with football, and you don't hear stories of people getting their shit kicked in and getting trampled over what cars they support. Gran Turismo is a place that displays the beauty and soul of each car that it depicts. No matter how fast or slow a car is, how insane or mundane, each car is treated with the same love. The same time put into getting them in their best light. Lovingly crafted descriptions to tell us why we should care about the car, not throwing any old messy models out there and making us feel like we shouldn't. GT5's standard cars aside, but that's another story. This series is so important because whether you have a passing interest or an obsessive fixation, it makes you feel welcome. Everyone starts out with licenses to learn the ropes. Want to learn every intrinsic detail of a car? The specs are there. Just want a general overview to see what you're looking at? The descriptions are there to tell the car's story. Truth is, no other car game out there puts the same effort into showcasing cars the way that car enthusiasts desire. Give a non-car person a Gran Turismo game and very quickly they'll just get it. Gran Turismo became so renowned, so integral to the car community, that Polyphony Digital were even asked by Nissan to design the user interface for the R35 GTR, and TVR themselves thanked them for single-handedly, rapidly increasing their brand awareness in Japan. And that's from a small niche car manufacturer. I would argue that Roof has a lot to thank them for too. And it's not just plain racing that Gran Turismo offers. As varied as the car world, so too is Gran Turismo. Remember, Gran Turismo 4 was the pioneer of photo mode in games, and in the latest iteration, there's a full Sony camera mode available, with over 1,000 different real-world locations, called scapes, to photograph. It's what inspired me as a kid back in 2005 to photograph anything and everything, and is probably the reason I'm doing this today. And if you prefer the creative side of things, since GT Sport there's been an unrivaled livery editor, allowing you to create the virtual racing team of your dreams, or using the automobile as your blank canvas to let your art skills run wild. Gran Turismo, today's car community, and the people who played it back in the day are so intrinsically linked that almost every aspect of car culture as a whole of modern times can trace a big part of its popularity today back to 15 people who spent countless hours and sleepless nights trying to make their dream come true when they were told that it just wouldn't happen. To this day, Gran Turismo is still a staple of Sony's lineup, and with over 90 million units sold, still Sony's best-selling exclusive series. That's hopefully a sign it's not going anywhere anytime soon. At time of recording, we're currently on Gran Turismo 7, a game fraught with some criticism at first, but still has its loyal and devoted fans, myself included. At Christmas time there, they released My First Gran Turismo, designed to be a free introduction to racing games for a whole new generation of gamers. A concept that started way back in the 2000s with the stillborn Gran Turismo for Boys. Thank God they changed that title. But regardless of where the series is going in the future, the legacy that Gran Turismo has left us is unprecedented. A seismic shift like this in one particular genre is something that just never really happens. While many tried to cash in on the gameplay of Gran Turismo, rivals came and went, but only Forza Motorsport has lived on to actually compete with The Godfather, and even then its style and gameplay are completely different, and I love and play both, so don't come at me. It's cliche to say it, but Gran Turismo is not just a racing game. It's a love letter to the automotive world, a world that's slowly dying away as more and more governments, activists and changes in the world try to take our hobby away from us. It might be grim to think about, but Gran Turismo's representation of the golden era of motoring might be all we have someday. So thank you Sony, thank you Kaz, and thank you everybody who works at Polyphony Digital. What you've done for the automotive world means more than you could ever have imagined. I've been Tomo, this has been 427 Motorsports, thank you so much for watching.